San Diego's mayor calls for the shutdown to end, how he's reaching out to members of Congress as he works in Washington this week. San Diego steps up to help federal workers from downtown to Balboa Park. See the latest work to help those who are missing another paycheck.
The State of the Union speech has been canceled by Nancy Pelosi because she doesn't want to hear the truth.
President Trump is looking for a backup plan, why he won't be allowed to deliver the State of the Union address in the House chambers.
A lot of it, especially with our clinic, is their dedication to serving the community. Do they have that in their background?
And the challenge to find doctors for underserved communities in San Diego. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer is urging Congress to end the government shutdown. In a letter sent to local members of Congress, the mayor talks about the Coast Guard and airport security. Part of the letter reads, many San Diegans employed by federal agencies have gone weeks without a paycheck, making it increasingly difficult to pay rent, utilities, and other bills. Many more San Diegans rely on federal social services to make ends meet. With each passing day, they experience greater economic uncertainty as future funding for these essential programs remains unclear. Earlier today, Mayor Faulconer appeared on CNN to talk about the shutdown and the border wall.
Do you need a new wall along the San Diego border with Mexico?
Well, look, we've had border fencing as part of in San Diego for decades.
Yeah.
And you know, Poppy, you just talked about security. Just this last year, we were named the safest big city in America. We're proud of that. And I'm proud of our relationship with our neighbors right next door in Mexico. You know, I don't talk about building walls. I talk about building bridges and increasing that communication, increasing that flow. And that's really what defines our border region in San Diego.
We ask because the president just tweeted this week, quote, much wanted wall in San Diego already started. Just really quick point of fact. Is that true?
Well, I think they continue to see changes in the border infrastructure, whether it's the existing fencing. I'll certainly let the president speak for himself. But again, when we look at our relationship with Mexico, and I'm here in Washington for the mayor's conference this week, well, we're going to be talking about the importance of increasing that trade. Increasing, you know, in San Diego, it's $60 billion a year.
The top officer of the U.S. Coast Guard is also calling for an end to the shutdown. He posted a message to Coast Guard members last night, thanking them for their work during this time.
Shipmates, thank you for continuing to stay on the watch. The Master Chief Petty Officer of the Coast Guard, myself, and your senior leadership team, as well as the American public, stand in awe of your continued dedication to duty and resilience of that and your families. We're 5+ weeks into the anxiety and stress of this government lapse and your non-pay. You, as members of the armed forces, should not be expected to shoulder this burden. I remain heartened by assistance available to you within the lifelines and by the outpouring of support from local communities across the nation. But ultimately, I find it unacceptable that Coast Guard men and women have to rely on food pantries and donations to get through day-to-day life as service members.
The Coast Guard is a branch of the military, but it's funded by the Department of Homeland Security. Nearly 45,000 active duty members and civilian employees are working without a paycheck. It's been another day of community groups and businesses stepping up to help federal workers and Coast Guard members. We have 2 reports tonight from KPBS reporters Matt Hoffman and Priya Sridhar.
Nationwide, 42,000 active duty Coast Guard service members and the 8,000 civilian employees who work with them are continuing to work without pay as the government shutdown continues. Many are away on deployments, leaving spouses like Stephanie Sirocco at home to figure out how to make ends meet with no paychecks.
I think a lot of the stress comes from the uncertainty. we're a military family. We know how to prepare for things, but and we can handle uncertainty, but this is too much uncertainty.
While the Coast Guard is part of the military, its funding comes from the Department of Homeland Security, one of the agencies that has not secured funding. Today, Feeding San Diego, a nonprofit hunger relief organization, visited Coast Guard Air Station San Diego to distribute food to 500 Coast Guard families.
These Coast Guard service members are out there in the dark of night, in rough seas, interdicting drug smuggling boats. They're assigned to forward combat areas and in areas that our other military troops are engaged. They are engaged in rescuing people from distressed watercraft and saving their lives. And so they're doing this vitally important work every day, and now they're doing it without pay. And that should make all of us just feel a sense of shame.
Sirocco says while many of the Coast Guard families are facing uncertain times, she's touched by the generosity of the San Diego community.
It is incredible to see how many people in our community they have come out to help us, and even just checking on us, and they help in any way they can.
If a compromise is not reached, next Friday, Sirocco and other Coast Guard families will miss their second paycheck. Priya Sridhar, KPBS News.
Getting ready to help out our San Diego neighbors.
Number one, I think this event is wonderful. Just awesome. It brought a lot of people together. We met people from different departments, from the border to the federal courts. So it's really nice because it just brought everybody together. I think it's great that all the small businesses are really thinking of the federal employees, and they stepped up for San Diegans.
Yelp and local restaurants served up a special meal at the San Diego Air and Space Museum in Balboa Park.
Thank you. It helps with spirit, and I was super sad the last few days. It's really depressing, but stuff like this, seeing how San Diego comes together as a community, it's really uplifting.
Well, that's what El Pollo Grill stands for. We're a community restaurant that helps the community in any way, shape, or form. It didn't even take me 5 seconds to respond with a yes.
There you go, enjoy.
Ramon Chavez is a Coast Guard service member who is the sole source of income for his growing family.
The kids don't know really what's going on, and I try to keep it that way and try to make sure that they're always happy, but always in the back of my mind, that's kind of holding me back and weighing me down when I'm trying to make sure that they're happy and fed.
Chavez is considered essential and is still working without pay, but thousands of other federal employees are not working at all.
Right now, I'm completely 100% furloughed.
Rebecca Palma works for the IRS and says she has already filed for unemployment and food assistance.
Don't let your American people suffer. I mean, I'm a federal servant, and I serve our people. And, to hold my pay hostage and to prevent me from doing my job hurts emotionally. Savings accounts are dwindling.
Nicole Ornelas is a program coordinator for the National Park Service at Cabrillo National Monument, who is also furloughed.
Well, it's unfortunate because it's this time off, so you hope that you can go on a trip, but we can't spend our money because we don't know when it's coming. So even a meal like this, you wouldn't go out and splurge like you normally. It's someone's birthday. You're not going to spend $100 on a meal because you don't know if that $100 needs to get you to the next week.
Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
President Trump will not deliver a traditional State of the Union address next week. Today, the president said he wanted to move forward as scheduled, but the House must pass a resolution to hold the event. And today, Speaker Nancy Pelosi said she won't allow the vote due to the shutdown. Here's a reaction from the president and Speaker Pelosi.
It's called the State of the Union. It's in the Constitution. We're supposed to be doing it, and now Nancy Pelosi, or Nancy as I call her, she doesn't want to hear the truth, and she doesn't want to hear, more importantly, the American people hear the truth. So we just found out that she's canceled it, and I think that's a great blotch on the incredible country that we all love. It's a great, great, horrible mark. I don't believe it's ever happened before. And it's always good to be part of history, but this is a very negative part of history. This is where people are afraid to open up and say what's going on. So it's a very, very negative part of history.
Why not invite him on that day? Why not invite him on that day?
Because government is closed. We said very clearly from the start, when I wrote to him the second time to say, since government is shut down, we do not, let's work together on a mutually agreeable date, and we can welcome you to the Capitol to get rid of the State of the Union address. Government is still shut down. I still make the offer. Let's work on a mutually agreeable date, as the original date was mutually agreeable, so that we can welcome him properly.
What happened? The White House is considering a different location to deliver a speech. Republicans who control state houses in Michigan, North Carolina, and West Virginia have extended invitations for the president to speak there. Amar Campanajjar is planning another run for Congress. The East County Democrat lost the 50th district race by 4 percentage points. It's the closest a candidate has come to unseating Congressman Duncan Hunter. Today, Campanajjar spoke to KPBS about what he learned in the last election.
A lot of people gave the Hunters a benefit of the doubt. They've known him for 40 years, and they basically just said he's innocent until proven guilty. And that argument is a lot easier to understand than a 60-count indictment. So they gave him the benefit of the doubt, but a lot of people still thought, you know, he's leaving a lot to be desired. And I think I left a lot to be desired. I think, you know, if more people heard my vision, I would have won this race. And we spent too much time attacking each other. And I should have spent more time getting people to know who I am. Now the district knows that I exist. Now they need to know what I am about. And I'm not about personal politics. I'm about people's personal health.
Congressman Hunter and his wife Margaret are accused of misusing nearly $250,000 of campaign money. Their trial will begin in September. Depending on the outcome, there could be a special election for the seat in the spring of 2020. Thousands of teachers went back to work today in Los Angeles. Last night, the union voted to approve a new contract with the school district, ending a week-long strike. The deal includes a 6% pay raise and a commitment to reduce class sizes over a 4-year period. San Diego's preschool network gets a bronze medal in a new report. KPBS education reporter Megan Burke says this comes as state policymakers look at improving early education.
Educators, public health officials, and lawmakers are increasingly pointing to the benefits of classroom-based preschool for achievement and health later in life. So public health think tank City Health and Rutgers University measured preschool quality in the country's 40 largest cities. San Diego was dinged for its class sizes.
A class size should be no larger than 20 students, and you want to have a ratio of 2 teachers to that 20, so 1 in 10. And unfortunately, class size is too big in San Diego.
The study only looks at the city's state-funded preschools. Governor Gavin Newsom has proposed spending $2 billion over the next 3 years on preschool and other early education programs in the state. Megan Burks, KPBS News.
A looming doctor shortage in San Diego County is expected to hit low-income communities the hardest. KPBS health reporter Susan Murphy met a doctor working to make sure that doesn't happen.
South of downtown San Diego's towering skyscrapers, where hundreds of homeless people sleep in large tent shelters or on the streets and get their meals from soup kitchens or trash cans.
Take a deep breath for me.
Dr. Harris Niazi cares for some of the region's poorest residents.
We had a patient that came in last week who just wanted to put his feet in warm water, and he had soap with him. We didn't necessarily have to charge for that visit. We just give this guy a bucket. Here, wash your feet. Sure, we'll take care of you. We do the best we can.
Some who seek help at the modern clinic in Logan Heights are among the millions of Californians who joined the Medi-Cal rolls under Obamacare, like 74-year-old Lorenzo Sarabia.
I had a heart attack 3 years ago, and I was in the hospital for 4 days.
Now he's homeless and sleeps on city sidewalks. He relies on the clinic for ongoing care.
For me, it's very important. Because if we didn't have that, we'd probably die on the street.
Dr. Niazi says others who come to the clinic have no insurance at all.
We serve a large amount of homeless people in this area.
Patients come in with typical issues, flu, rash, infections, but many have a multitude of complex problems.
Medical problems, psychiatric problems, and on top of that, the social, financial, and drug issue that's tremendous.
The 30-year-old assistant medical director for Family Health Centers of San Diego says his job requires a special set of skills.
It's very easy to throw a pill at somebody, very easy to diagnose, and you read the book and it tells you, okay, well, this is the problem, this is the management, this is the treatment. But for patients that are non-compliant, they're poor, or they don't speak the same language as you, You have to know how to talk to these people.
How to talk to people without being judgmental, he says, and how to listen, and most important, to understand where they're coming from.
To be able to treat them, you have to know what it feels like to be in their shoes.
Dr. Niazi knows exactly what it feels like.
And I was a war refugee from Afghanistan. I came when I was about 1 year old or so, and we came to the Bronx, New York.
He grew up in poverty and watched his parents struggle with health care. It's why everyone at his clinic is treated as someone.
In the end of the day, I don't think it matters to me if you're black, white, if you're gay, if you're Muslim, if you're Latino, if you're undocumented, or if you're documented. When you're a patient in front of me, and you're ill, we're going to treat you the same no matter what.
Finding dedicated doctors like Dr. Niazi to work at Family Health Center's 23 primary care clinics in San Diego, serving 3,000 people each day, is a challenge amid a growing physician shortage.
So our goal is to really connect them with community medicine.
Anthony White is director of the center's community and government relations.
Being a nonprofit organization that provides care for free sometimes, it's hard for us to pay competitive rates.
And have you had any shortness of breath more than usual?
That's why the center started a doctor residency program that trains and works to retain physicians to help fill the gap. The 3-year program gives medical graduates real-world experience with an emphasis on empathy and improving health disparities.
They're rotating throughout our clinics at Family Health Centers of San Diego, but then also they need to learn about hospital inpatient care, so they're working with Scripps Mercy Hospital.
White says research shows graduates are more likely to stay and practice where they trained. He says last year nearly 1,000 medical students applied for 6 open residency slots.
It's not always necessarily on, who has the best grades or who is, the most stellar person. A lot of it, especially with our clinic, is their dedication to serving the community. Do they have that in their background?
That's why Sarah Matthews applied. The 3rd-year chief resident knows a medical specialty would boost her salary, but it's not just about the money, she says. It's about helping those in need.
I also really loved refugee and immigrant health, so I was really excited to come here where we have more than 41 languages spoken in our clinic.
There are also financial tuition incentives for working in underserved communities that began under Obamacare. It's a program Governor Gavin Newsom plans to expand using Proposition 56 tobacco tax money. Dr. David Bazzo is president of the San Diego County Medical Society.
$190 million is going to go towards loan repayment for those physicians that go into a traditionally underserved area to practice.
Bazzo says the timing couldn't be better. 25% of California doctors are nearing retirement, just as aging baby boomers are requiring more health care. He says the physician shortage will hit underserved areas hardest.
Everything else is going good.
Dr. Niazi is a recent graduate of Family Health Center's residency program.
I couldn't see myself doing anything else.
It's a place he plans to stay because it's where he's needed most. Susan Murphy, KPBS News.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, Shutdown Day 33. Plans by the Democrats to propose additional funding as the president and the Speaker of the House continue to fight over the State of the Union address. Coming up at 7 on KPBS.
San Diego offers plenty to smile about. The San Diego Tourism Authority has launched a new international campaign. They're calling it Something to Smile About. The aim is to show what San Diego has to offer all year round. SDTA leaders say early numbers show more than 35 million people visited San Diego in 2018. And they're hopeful this $19 million campaign will attract even more people.
We're trying to convince people that San Diego has more to offer than just the best weather in the country, great beaches, we have great attractions, but the city itself is a dynamic city.
SDTA estimates last year tourists spent $11 billion at local attractions, a total economic impact of more than $18 billion. The operator of the San Onofre nuclear power plant will meet with regulators tomorrow. KPBS North County reporter Allison St. John says this should bring new details on the narrowly avoided accident at San Onofre last year.
The purpose of the online conference is for Edison to respond to the findings of the NRC special inspection. The report concluded the near-miss accident in August was the result of inadequate training and supervision of workers. A canister loaded with 50 tons of spent nuclear fuel was left suspended without supports over a concrete bunker for almost an hour after workers failed to notice it had not downloaded properly. Holly Crawford is Director of Emergency Services for San Diego County.
I think they had an analysis that showed even if the cask had dropped that there wouldn't have been a risk to public health. And I'm very interested in seeing if the NRC does, how they weigh in on that particular issue.
4 local congressmen, led by Democrat Mike Levin, asked the NRC to relocate the conference so that local communities could have direct access to the proceedings. The congressman's letter also asked the NRC to adopt appropriate enforcement actions that ensure involved parties change the processes that led to these incidents, as well as any processes that could lead to future safety violations. The NRC has not yet responded to the congressman's letter. The NRC has not said when it will decide if Edison can resume transferring the spent fuel. Alison St. John, KPBS News.
Climate change is a threat to the global economy. That's how Vice President Al Gore presented the issue to an audience at the World Economic Forum. The annual meeting of global leaders is held in Switzerland. The former vice president talked about the need to reduce emissions and moderated a discussion with nature filmmaker David Attenborough.
We have to change. We are putting 110 million tons of man-made heat-trapping global warming pollution into the very thin shell of atmosphere surrounding our planet, as if it's an open sewer. How serious is this in your view?
I can't imagine anything more serious.
Yeah.
I really can't. And the trouble is that change is accelerating, isn't it not?
Yeah.
That things are getting worse faster than they were.
Yeah.
But the maddening thing is that we now know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
We've just got to do so.
Yeah.
The U.S. has no official presence at this year's forum. The Trump administration decided not to send anyone due to the government shutdown. State lawmakers want to change how money is spent on earthquake preparedness and response. A bill is set to be formally introduced next month. It allows the state to restructure the way money can be used by the California Earthquake Authority. That's the agency that provides earthquake insurance. The agency supports the plan, which they say will allow more spending to retrofit homes. A major volcanic eruption in Mexico is caught on camera. Take a look at this time-lapse video shot last night. The volcano is located near Mexico City with 25 million people living within 60 miles. The eruption was so intense it sent ash and debris 2 miles into the air. The volcano has been erupting regularly for 25 years. San Diego can expect some windy weather in the days ahead. Regina Miller has details in tonight's forecast.
Well, looking across the southwest here, things are pretty quiet, and we've had some windier conditions, but those will be diminishing for this afternoon. Any of those areas, especially in the mountains where we've seen some of the gustier winds around, those will diminish through the afternoon. And looking at the satellite and radar, not much going on. And as we head into the overnight, we have a mainly clear sky in the metro areas. The temperature is at 50 degrees, and we're going to see it falling into the 40s in some locations. Oceanside's only at 40 for our overnight low. Chula Vista's at 48 degrees. Borrego Springs drops to 43 degrees. And for Thursday, we are going to have mainly dry conditions. There could be some localized areas where we still have a few gusty winds around. Now into Borrego Springs, we're at 75 degrees for your daytime high tomorrow. 71 in Oceanside and 73 in Chula Vista with some sunshine mixing with a few clouds. For the weekend then, high pressure settling in across the west, and that is going to lead to an offshore flow that is going to increase the winds here, especially by Saturday, where we're going to see sporadic power outages, some dangerous crosswinds with gusts of 35 to 45 miles per hour, 55 miles per hour in the mountains. Your forecast for tomorrow into the coast areas, partly sunny and nice, and 71, partly sunny and nice also on Friday. We get to 75 degrees on Saturday, And that's when we'll see some of those gusty winds in some locations. Inland areas, partly sunny and warm for your Thursday at 77. Same forecast for you on Friday, and just a little bit warmer on Saturday with abundant sunshine, 78 degrees. In the mountain areas on Thursday, partly sunny and breezy. Our temperature gets to 55 degrees. It's going to remain breezy in the mountains for Friday, but the winds really pick up here on Saturday. That's when we'll have some of those gusty winds around. And in the desert locations, partly sunny and breezy for Thursday, partly sunny and windy by Friday. Saturday tops out at 76 with sunshine. I'm Regina Miller, KPBS News.
Now, here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. The Sundance Film Festival is about to begin. Morning Edition will tell us about some of the movies that are generating buzz this year. And on Midday Edition, remaking Plaza de Panama, why the plan to update the Balboa Park attraction is getting more expensive. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.